be slowing down people entering, so maybe we can go ahead and get started now. I'll introduce myself really quick. I'm Abby Kosberg. I'm the executive director of the Banfield Locke Center for the Arts, which is where the show is being hosted right now. Just a couple of housekeeping things before I start getting into Banfield Locke and what we're doing tonight. I'm going to mute everybody right now, and in order to talk, you have to unmute yourself. And so you'll start off as muted. And so you should all be muted right now. And then, so if you want to talk, make sure you hit unmute, and when you're done talking, please remember to mute yourself again. If you're not talking, I'll be going through and making sure you're muted just so we don't have any background noise or anything interrupting the discussion going forward. So this talk will go about an hour, and after 40 minutes, we'll open up to questions with the moderator. If you have any questions that you want to pose to the artists or any of the moderators or any of the panelists, please type them into the chat, and Zoe will be going through and monitoring that, and she'll be asking the panelists those questions that come through in the chat. We ask that you don't interrupt and kind of just say your question right away. Please wait till the question and answer portion at the end, unless it's one of the already decided questions. And if you have any personal questions, if something's not working technological wise or something's going weird, please feel free to message me in the chat personally, and I can help you walk through that. But let's get started with everything that we've got past that housekeeping. So just a little information about the Banfield Locke Center for the Arts, and I know we'll be introducing the other different parts to this exhibition. But the Banfield Locke is a nonprofit art center that was established in 1979, and we're in Fridley, Minnesota, and we're currently hosting the exhibition. And I'm going to put a couple links in the chat so you can, in case you haven't had a chance to walk through the exhibition, you can go to this link that I'm putting right now, which will take you to a virtual tour where you can go through and watch the entire exhibition. You can even walk through it in real time and look at how it's set up. And then if you want to learn more about the Banfield Locke or about any other things going on with the exhibition, here's a link to our general website for it. And you can get to the virtual tour if any links aren't working from our main website. It's on the front page under exhibitions for it. And if you haven't had a chance yet and would like to come visit the show in person at the Banfield Locke, we are open regular hours for now. And so you can come Tuesday through Saturday from 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. Or you can make an appointment with me, which is just go to our website. You can request an appointment for that. If you have any questions, please just reach out to me. And again, if you have any questions or technological issues throughout this, please let me know. And I think I'll pass this on to Jamal, who's going to be talking about the IARP.
Okay, hi everybody. I was just going to text you something. I don't know if you read it, Abby. One of the participants is Ahmed El-Sheikh Lee, and he doesn't speak the language very well, so we need some time to explain to him about what's going on. If that's okay with you.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, let me start introducing myself, and then we can pause for a little bit to talk with Ahmed. I'm just going to talk to Ahmed first for a bit, and then I can move on and introduce myself. Is that okay?
Yeah, that sounds great.
Okay. أحمد، الشغلة إنه أنا بين فترة راح أوقفهم حتى أحكي وياك، أترجم لك بعض الشغلات. هي إذا تحكي عابي، أنت تعرفها العابي، هي المسؤولة عن المعرض هذا اللي شو اسمه مال بنفل.
اي هي حكت المقدمه انه من راح يسوي، من راح يحكي، من راح كذا.
اي فقالت الكل لازم
تعليمات.
يسوي. هي تقدر تسيطر على الصوت مالتنا، تسوي ميوت يعني تطفي، فتريد هي تحكي والباقي. فمن واحد ما يحكي اذا يريد يكتب لها انه مثلا اريد احكي حتى تحكي، بس ما يصير قاطع. فانت هسه ورا ما اخلص اني اسوي ميوت حتى لو هي ما مسويتك ميوت. اوكي
ماشي. اوكي
هسه راح اقدم نفسي للبرنامج. اوكي
تفضل. اوكي
فسوي ميوت وهسه اوكي. Thank you very much, Abby. I just told him briefly what you introduce yourself and what's going on.
Perfect.
Okay. Welcome everyone, and thank you for joining us. My name is Jamal Ali, and I am the IRP Voice Community Engagement Facilitator of the Iraqi and American Reconciliation Project. That's a big title. We are a nonprofit founded in 2007 in response to a decade of sanction, war, and occupation. We engage Iraqi and American in the art, personal and professional exchange, and humanitarian invitation in the effort to promote culture, understanding, and reconciliation. IRP is proud to present the Home of Memories exhibition, which is made possible in part by the Mabrook Foundation and the voters of Minnesota through a grant from Metropolitan Regional Art Council. Thanks to legislative appropriate from the Art and Culture Heritage Fund, we welcome you to learn more about us by visiting our website, reconciliationproject.org. Thank you.
Thank you, Jamal, and thank you everybody for being here with us tonight to celebrate the work and stories featured in the exhibition Home of Memories, Portraits and Story of Iraqi Minnesotan, which is currently up at the Banfield Lock, as said. My name is Cinel, and I'm part of CarryOn Homes, which is an artist collective that curated the exhibition. Is it a good time to stop, Jamal, to translate? And in the meanwhile, I will share my screen so you can see a little bit about the show. I think you're muted, Jamal.
You're right. Sorry. That was clever of you.
اوكي اتس اوكي زوي. اوكي زوي افتهمت.
هي يعني تقول لك احنا يعني نلتقي اليوم انه فرحانين بهذا العمل، وهي تشوفك بعض الاعمال من عندها. اوكي انت هسه سوي ميوت. Go ahead, Zoe.
Okay, so CarryOn Homes is a group comprised of immigrants from 3 countries. So I'm from Italy, Pangu is from China, and Shunjie Young is from Malaysia. Being an immigrant in the US is a complicated condition that's both humbling and empowering. And our goal is to create platforms for interactions in service of the community, and mostly immigrants and transplant communities. Our emeritus CarryOn Home members are Ahi Shibata, that's from Japan, and Preston Drum, who's from the US. So the CarryOn Homes team has worked with the Iraqi American Reconciliation Project since 2018, and it's wonderful to see how this partnership has become stronger, has evolved throughout time, and we're truly grateful and humbled to have been asked to facilitate the curatorial process for this show, because we had a wonderful time. We learned from all the storytellers, the artists, and the community itself, and from the ERP staff. And in particular, I want to thank Hiba and Jamal, who's here tonight, and Jesse, because they have a really immense dedication to this project. And you can see in all the careful details and the variety of experiences that this exhibition provides for visitors to better understand and connect with the Iraqi culture. Is it a good time to start?
Yes, yeah. أحمد هي بدها تحكي على الكاريون، تقدر تسوي أنميوت على الكاريون هوم وأعمالهم وشغلاتهم اللي نعرف احنا كليتنا، وهم كلش فرحانين بالمشاركة ويانا، وده تشكر جمال وأني وهبة، لأنه احنا يعني قمنا بأعمال إنه يعني تعرف سوينا والتحضيرات والشغلات هذه.
إيه عرفت الحكي كليته. Okay.
Yeah. Okay. Go ahead, Zoe.
Okay. So just a bit about this show. Home of Memory explores homemaking and memories in the portraits of Iraqi Minnesotans by Iraqi Minnesotans photographer Ahmed I'll try my best. El-Sheikh Lee and Jafar Alshaikhli, yeah, okay. And Jafar Nabi. I'm sorry, I'm really doing my best here. And those portraits and stories give us a complex and intimate portrayal of what home was, is, and what it can be. So we thank Lafta Abdu Jabbar Jassim, Rasul Albayehi, Inas Alnabi, Zena Khalil, Ronak Ahmed Ali, Jafar Abdullah, and Abir Majid, and Aja Las for coming together to compose a beautiful and intricate tapestry of home. Is it time?
Yeah. يقول لك وطن الذكريات اللي هو العراقي من مينيسوتا، هو اللي سوى العمل هو المصورين احمد الشيخ لي وجعفر النبي. يعني شوف يعني الفكره انه كيف يكونون العراقيين في مينيسوتا، وكيف يعني شعورهم في مينيسوتا، وكيف يفكرون. يعني هي الفكره اللي انت سويناها، اللي هم لفته ورسول ويناس وزينه شو اسمه احمد ظافر عبير، ذولا اللي هم اللي شاركوا بال
اوكي جمال.
Okay, Zoo, thank you. Go ahead.
Thank you, Jamal. So today we're here with the artist Ahmed and Jafar, and with 2 of the 8 storytellers, Zena and Abir. I'll just go through their bios now. So Ahmed El-Sheikh Lee is a seasoned photojournalist. He holds a diploma in fine arts and photography. Ahmed has worked at prominent Iraqi and international television broadcasters such as NBC, Al Arabiya, Al Hurra, and the Associated Press. He also worked as a cameraman and media officer with the U.S. Joint Chief of Staff in Iraq. In 2014, he moved to the US and eventually made his way to Minnesota in 2016, where he now lives with his family. Jafar Nabi is a multidisciplinary artist with a focus on filmmaking and visual effects. He's a 2016 graduate of the Minneapolis College of Art and Design filmmaking BFA program. He moved to Minnesota in '96 and is now based in New York City, working between New York City and Minneapolis. You want me to just read all the bios? Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, you go ahead because I have it and I can translate it.
Oh, great.
Okay. هل تستمر هي.
Okay, you continue.
Okay.
Zoe.
Just let me know if
Yeah.
It's too much. Okay. So Zena Khalil was born and raised in Baghdad and followed the path of her father to graduate from Baghdad's College of Medicine. There she met and married Dr. Banjar Abdullah from Duke. They moved to the US in '94, where Zena completed her residency and went on to work in the VA Medical Center and Regions Hospital. Together they have 2 sons and they live in North Oaks. Abir Majid, born and raised in Baghdad, has a BA in chemistry from the University of Sulaimania. I hope I said that not too bad.
Go ahead.
He moved to the US in '79 and he has lived in several other countries since. Abir now lives in Golden Valley with his wife. And so if you want to translate, otherwise I have questions.
Yeah. هي حكت عليك يعني انه تاريخك الفني، وحكت على تاريخ اللي هو انت تعرفه يعني، وحكت على جعفر.
تستمر.
حكت على زينة اللي تعرف انت كل تفاصيلها، وعبير مجيد اللي هو يعني
نعم.
انت عندك معلومات عنه، هو يعني ببغداد، ولد في بغداد، وعنده بكالوريوس كيمياء من الجامعة السليمانية، انتقل للأمريكا بال79 وحتى هو يعني Okay, go ahead, Zoe.
Okay, thank you. So I have a few questions for each of the participants, and I will start with Ahmed. So reading from your statement about your work as a photojournalist, I quote, "The focus remains on the human in all the details of their lives." So I would like to know more about that and your approach to photography and portraiture in relation also to the portraits included in the Home of Memory exhibitions.
هذا السؤال موجه لك أحمد. من
نعم.
تقرأ شو اسمه على شغلك، أنت اشتغلت كمصور
نعم.
فوتو جورناليست، وبعدين ركزت على الناس، يعني الأشخاص، يعني تاريخ، يعني شلون الصور اللي هي أنت اللي هي مثل حياتهم.
نعم.
يصير تعرف أكثر شلون about your approach to، يعني شلون يعني انتقلت من التصوير العادي إلى البورتري، وشنو علاقتك بالبورتري وهي واللي هي صارت بهذا المعرض اللي هي الهوم وطن الذكريات.
أنا بالأساس يعني هوايتي إنه أصور وجوه الناس، يعني البورتريت. فمن كملت دراستي أنا حصل على دبلوم العالي بالفنون الجميلة من بغداد. اشتغلت في مجال الإذاعة والتلفزيون، وبمجال الإذاعة والتلفزيون اشتغلت بالدراما. الدراما هي عبارة عن تصوير
أوكي.
الدراما هي عبارة عن تصوير الأشخاص، يعني شخصيات أنا دا أصورها تتحدث قصص مختلفة، روايات مختلفة، مقاطع مختلفة، كلها من وجوه الناس وحياة الناس وقصص الناس. اتفضل.
دقيقة. Okay. At my base, I used to photo just faces, and after I finished, I graduate from كلية لو معهد هو كان مسوي نفسك ميوت صوت ماكو صوت.
معهد فنون جميلة. Okay. دبلوم عالي.
Yeah. After he got the diploma from the art institute, he went to the television, the Iraqi television, and he started
ركزت على تصوير الدراما، المسلسلات.
He focusing on shooting the drama and series, and this series or drama is focusing on life of the people.
وتتحدث عن قصص الناس وعن حياتهم.
Talks about their life and their memories.
من خلالها أنا أصلا يعني أصور فوتوغراف. يعني أنا قبل ما أدخل للدراسة أنا أصور فوتوغراف من سنة 83. أنا منتمي إلى جمعية المصورين العراقيين وأعمل في مجال فوتوغراف من أنا أدرس. ركزت على وجوه الناس. بعدين شفت أنه كل الصور اللي نقدر نصورها إحنا، يعني أنا حبيت مجال تصوير الوجوه البورتريت لأنه قريب، الناس تتحدث عن أشيائها، أنا أترجمها إلى تعابير. يعني كل شخص عنده التعبير بوجهه، أخلي المقابل يقرأ الصورة من خلال وجه الشخص، تعبير الشخص. استهوتني هاي الفكرة أكثر من ما أصور بناية أو أصور منظر طبيعي، بالإضافة تصويري لهاي الأشياء. لكن هذا يعني شفته قريب إلى شخصيتي، يعني حبيتها أكثر.
لحظة أحمد. Okay, at the beginning I was doing photograph, and before I started doing, I got my degree, and I was member of the art. شو اسمه كنت عضو وين؟ شو اسمه عضو
جمعية المصورين العراقيين.
Yeah, Iraqi photography membership, and he started liking the portrait, and he feels it's close to him because it talks about people and their life, and I start liking it more than photography.
أنا أعتقد الصورة البورتريت أقرب إلي، لأنه ما أعرف، ممكن أنه أنا من جذوري اللي أنا انولدت في بغداد القديمة. بغداد القديمة اللي بها تاريخ يعني كثير مترابط، الناس مترابطة مع بعض، فكنت قريب لهذا المواضيع، ما كنت بعيد عن الناس، فظليت مستمر إلى أن درست كيف أصور الرواية من خلال أفواه الناس نفسهم يحكون القصة وأني أصورهم.
Okay. The picture I have in my mind and the portrait picture, I feel it's very close because my root, because I born in old Baghdad, and old Baghdad has people are connected together and have a close relation. And from there I learn a lot from people. I think it tells the picture, the portrait tells a lot of stories from the people live there.
وأنا أعتبر هذا التحول في فن الفوتوغراف من الصورة الطبيعية الفوتوغرافية إلى نمط الصورة القصصية في فن الفوتوغراف، وأنا دا أستمر بهذا المجال إن شاء الله. راح أكون يعني أقدم إبداع أكثر من اللي قدمناه بهذا المعرض. وأنا والأخ جعفر يعني كان المعرض متميز حسب ما حكوا الناس يعني به، سوى فد أصداء يعني جميلة، وشكرا.
I think I'm changing from just photograph to portrait, and I really love to work with Jafar, and people like it, and they have a lot of comments, positive comments about the portrait we had. Thank you, everybody. That's a Zoe mute. Go ahead, Zoe.
Oh, well, thank you, Ahmed, and thank you, Jamal. It's great to it's great to think that this exhibition maybe, is going to open more doors and more like creative outlet for you, Ahmed. I have a question for Jafar. So if you want to tell us a little bit about your process, media issues for creating this series, and maybe you want to use Abir's portrait since he's here as an example.
Yeah, so my process for this project was I wanted to capture the subjects in ways that were not completely untraditional, but kind of taking traditional elements of our culture and of their stories and kind of capturing them in not like really cinematic ways, but more artistic and creative ways. And I always shoot on film, and I wanted to approach this project on 120mm film, medium format. That was important to me because I felt, for me, that's just a much stronger medium and is able to capture subjects in ways that are a lot more creative. And with Abir's portrait, we shot them at, I forgot the name of the park, but it was in, I think, like Mounds View.
Bush Lake Park and Maple Grove.
Maple Grove, there we go. And that's a park that Abir mentioned that he frequents often, and that he really enjoys it. So I wanted to capture his portrait there. And part of his story was the religious prosecution. So I know I wanted to implement the prayer book that Abir had as well. And I didn't want to kind of just like capture each person like so, how do you put it? Like doing what the things they want, like usually do, or like who they are. I want to kind of create a visually strong portrait of them. And so I kind of approached that with all the subjects, as well as implementing my own creative style, and kind of how I work with subjects. So I don't know if you want to translate that, Jamal. I said a lot.
There's a lot. هو جعفر يعني شو اسمه التقط الصور ويعني وسوى فيلم 120 ملم، وهو يعني حكى على عبير واللقطات اللي سويها عبير بالبارك، وراد يركز على الدين اللي ينتمي الى الاخ عبير من خلال كتاب اللي شايله بيده، هو الحامله بيده من حتى يمثل الديانه مالته. اوكي.
And sorry, there was another part of the question. Can you repeat it? Or did I?
Yeah, it's about, it's just like a general idea about your process and media, but if you want to talk about a little more, like why you like to shoot in film, difference
yeah.
from digital for you.
Yeah, so I switched over to film a couple of years ago, mostly because I feel like it's a much more organic process. I scan all my film. I don't process all my film, but I like to scan. But for me, I find that it's timeless. And because it's timeless, I feel like the portraits become timeless as well, and all the work is timeless. And I wanted to create these portraits to feel not aged or dated in any way. And I just also love the mechanical process of taking a photo. You kind of lose that with digital photography. As awesome as it is, I think there is this beautiful process of just like cranking the camera to like the shutter and everything. And to like be able to do that, I love and I'm very passionate about.
Okay. بالنسبة are you done, Jafar?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, thank you. يعني هو دا يحكي عن التمتع بالصور بالبورتري، ويحس انه يتمتع بالوقت، يعني يمشي بسرعة يعني. والصور سواها بيده، واخذ الصور بالطريقة الكلاسيكية، يعني هواي سوى اشياء كلها بالطريقة الكلاسيكية. هو يحب هاي الشغله ويتمتع بها هوايه. Okay.
Yeah, that's kind of it. Thank you.
Thank you, Jafar. Yeah, I think you really achieved that idea of like making them timeless and like to me a little cinematographic too, right?
Yeah. I mean, I studied filmmaking, so I kind of approach a lot of my photography in like in a cinema idea or like format in a way.
Yeah, I think it's like the blurred background and like very sharp, you know, like the depth of field. So thank you. Well, let's hear from Abir, since we are on his portrait right now. So Abir, you mentioned in an interview with Sheila Regan that you felt a connection with Jafar, and I wonder if you can tell us a little bit more about that, and if you feel that this project helped you connect with the larger Iraqi community.
Yes, good evening, everyone. Yeah, I was trying to remember the interview with the journalist Sheila, but I like Jafar because even though he was born in a refugee camp outside of Iraq, his family and myself share the common denominator that we were both refugees that left our loved ones and our families and the old country behind because of religious persecution. Being members of the Baha'i faith, my parents ended up getting a life sentence, and I was also imprisoned and had a slightly less sentence. So I was forced to leave Iraq, and that was also Jafar's case because of the people that he belongs to and the political situation at the time, they had to leave Iraq, and he was born in a refugee camp. The other reason that I liked him is that he reminded me of my time when I came to this country. I was about the same age, and I had jet black hair, full head of hair at that time as well. So we connected, actually. I've also known his sister, both of his sisters that are here in Minnesota before him. And I'm glad he talked a little bit about the process of his way of thinking and photography, because he said that he didn't want to capture people in their day-to-day situations. So I wanted to explain to people that I don't go every day and look at the sky. So in that picture that he that was on the exhibit front page, it was by his direction. He actually took about 40 different pictures, and he also reminded me with his old camera, with the looking at it, at the picture. How do you call it, Jafar? The scope that.
The viewfinder.
Yes, the viewfinder. It's not like he's behind the camera, but he looks at the viewfinder from above. It was a box camera that was very similar to the one that my dad used when I was a child. So that's how we connected. And the second part of the question was whether I felt that this project brought me closer to the Iraqi community here in Minnesota. Definitely it did. I have been coming to the different meetings since the inception of the Iraqi American Reconciliation Project, and I've known Kathy since 2003 or 4. It's been a long time. And every year we've had at least a couple of different events that brought the larger community together, and I got to meet Zena and her husband, and Jamal and his family, and many others. So it was really nice to have another opportunity to come together, bring the community together in this art project. Sorry, Jamal, if I don't know.
I'm taking notes. Okay, go ahead.
No, I'm done.
Okay, you're done. Okay. الأخ عبير هو كان يعني فرحان بالمقابلة مع الصحفية شيلا، وكذلك جعفر، والاثنان يعني كلش يعني تونس وياهم. ذكر الدين البهائي اللي هو يعني كان منتمي إليه. والدتك عدموهم؟
لا، مسجونين مؤبد.
مسجونين مؤبد، سوري يعني. اوكي. والدة انسجنوا مؤبد، هو من بالسجن، فاضطروا يتركون العراق. يعني هو كان من ترك العراق كان يعني عمره بنفس عمر جعفر هسه، كان عنده شعر كثيف ما شاء الله، راح الشعر. وانا اعرف طبعا يعرف خواته، وكلش فرحان بطريقة التصوير مالته. وعنده صورة واحدة أخ عبير يتأمل بالسماء، يقول لا تظل معه بالسماء، مو زين عليكم. كاميرته القديمة ذكرته بأنه والده والدك موجود له، الله يرحمه.
الله يرحمه، شكرا.
الله يرحمه.
والديك.
كان عنده كاميرا بنفسها. وكان يعني سعيد انه يلتقي بالعراقيين من مينيسوتا، ويعرف كاثي هو من 2003، وكل فتره تصير تجمعات، فالتقى بدكتوره زينه ودكتور بنجين، والتقى بينا وانا وعائلتي. فرحان باللقاءات وسعيد بها، وهو حس انه بدا يصير قريب من التجمعات العراقيه. شكرا اخ عبير.
Just wanted to add that I'm lucky that we have such an association here, the Iraqi American Reconciliation Project, and I always share this information with my sisters, and therefore they both are with us tonight here. Alhan and Roa.
هو طبعا كلش فرحان بالمنظمة وخواته ويانا اليوم موجودين بالتجمع. أهلا وسهلا بهم. Welcome. Okay, Zoe.
Yeah, I want to like echo Abir. It's wonderful to see how your community, guys, it's so tight, and yeah, and like you really do a lot to support each other. It's really wonderful from the perspective of like an immigrant from a different country. It's really, really cool. And thank you, Abir, for sharing your story with Jafar and with a larger public. Those are really powerful stories, and I hope that people can use them as a way of approaching, the fact that we all come from different places, but should be.
Zoe, I just wanted to say that prior to coming to the US, while I was waiting for my refugee status to be recognized, I lived for 5 months in Italy. Ciao, molto piacere.
Oh my God, thank you.
So you eat a lot of the pizza and lasagna.
I don't get to hear a lot of my language, like, yeah, that's great. We should talk about that. So, well, also great to know that you met Zena even before this project, and now you're like in the same exhibition together. So I have a question for you, Zena. And while I ask you this question, I will also show people the great portrait that Ahmed took of you, one of the two of them. So your journey to the US was a long process, and it was centered on your professional career as a doctor. And you mentioned that it took you many years to feel like US was finally home for you. And that you belong to this land and this place. So I wonder what eventually made you feel that way. There was a moment in which like things changed.
I don't know whether it's a moment or not, but for a long time, I just felt I do not belong here. And maybe part of it, my husband for the first 3 years wasn't working. He was going through his qualification exams. And it was tight for us as a small family. And I just didn't connect with the people. I mean, I had some friends at work, I would socialize with them, but I always thought, this is not my place. And I always, to be honest with you, I used to think that even if I become a citizen, I'm always going to love Iraq, and I would think that it would be unfair to the American people if I participate in the political process and vote, because I'm not going to love the States as much as I love Iraq. But the moment I became a citizen, it was just an amazing feeling of like, this is my place, and this is my new country. And I belong here, and I'm part of this promised land. So I guess I would say probably, yeah, when I became a citizen, and it's surprisingly, I mean, it was surprising to me, even to my parents. Well, they both passed away, but when they became citizens, they were so happy that there's a country like this country here, which has so many opportunities, and it's a place that we can. I mean, if there's no other place to go, it's like a refuge for us that's been prosecuted and having hard times in our native lands. Yeah, so I guess when I became a citizen, and I immediately participated in the political process and started voting and being active in the political community. Yeah.
أحمد، بالنسبة للدكتورة زينة أنت تعرف كل تفاصيلها، بس هي ذكرت أنه قبل الجنسية كانت حنينها يعني جذورها حتى بعد بالعراق، ما كانت تتوقع أنه ما عجبتها الوضع، بس بعد الجنسية حست هو هذا بلدها ولازم تشارك به. حتى أبوها وأمها الله يرحمهم ورحم والدينا كان عندهم نفس الشعور، بس ما صار عندهم جنسية، وهسه هي بدأت تشارك هنا حتى بالانتخابات بتشارك، يعني صار عندها تفاعل مع هذا البلد،
انتماء تقدر تقول.
انتماء للبلد.
دكتورة زينة، أنا قصتها يعني عجبتني، لأنه مو شرط أنه إحنا نريد نصور قصة، مو بالضرورة أن تكون القصة حزينة أو القصة لها أبعاد أخرى، لا، قصة قتال من نوع آخر، الطموح اللي يوصلنا إلى الهدف اللي نريده. مو شرط أن أنا أكون لاجئ ورفجي ومضطهد وكذا واني اجي عندي قصه، لا، القصه مو بس بهاي الطريقه، القصه كل انواع القصص هي لازم الناس تعرفها. انا من خلال شغلي، لا، دكتوره زينه قصتها اشوفها اني كانت صراع مع النفس، انه كيف اوصل الى هدفي، بغض النظر انه انا كنت في بلد يعني ما قدرت اوصل به، لا، هي وصلت الى مرحله لكن كملت مرحله حياتها وطموحها في بلد ثاني. عجبني دكتورة زينة قصتها انه الاندماج، موضوع الاندماج عندها يعني اجى بالمرحله الاخيره، انه شافت نفسها لا، هي عندها انتماء هنا هذا هو هذا القصه الحقيقيه، انه المكان اللي انا اكون به اكثر ومتماسك مع الناس الموجودين، هي هاي القصه، انه انا وصلت الى هدفي من خلال دراستي ومن خلال عملي ومن خلال الناس اللي وقفوا وياي، اصدقاء، اقارب، احباء، قدرت اوصل. شكرا.
Ahmed, comment for what Dr. Zena said. He liked her story, and as a refugee, we should, it doesn't have to be a sad story. It's like she was in a battle. She was like, after her passion to, despite of her coming to US, she was struggling until she reached her goal. And this is one of the stories that a lot of people want to know. And she finished whatever she started with in another country, and she was melted in this country, and she got to the point she started participating in an election, and she finally reached her goal for her hard work and people encourage her friends and relatives and her family.
طبعا هي قصتها مشتركه هي وزوجها، يعني زوجها نفس القصه وياها، فكانت قصتين بقصه واحده من خلال دكتوره زينه. انا استمتعت الصراحه بالقصه، وخليت لهم صورتين، صوره الى هي وزوجها، وصوره اللي وصلتها بعد كفاح طويل من خلال عملها. شكرا.
The things that her husband has the same struggling and reaching the same goal, and that's why I put picture for both of them, and his story is within her story too, the same thing, the same struggling until they reach their goals. Thank you.
Thank you, Zena, for sharing your story with us, and for Ahmed to clarify that there's your husband is involved in this story too. I think also what you said about voting, the one that gets to be citizen can vote for the rest of us who are on some random visa. So please do, so this is a good time for opening up to questions from the audience. So if you have anything that you want to ask to our participants, Zena, Abir, Jafar, Ahmed, you can type your question in the chat. Well, maybe while you think about it, I have some more questions for Jaafar, and it's about like you being born in Iraq but then being raised mostly as an American, or like in America for most part of your life. And I wonder like how was the Iraqi culture depicted in the media, also because you work with media, with video and film. And so, yeah, how is to grow up as an Iraqi American in the age of social media and mass communication? If you want to speak about that.
Yeah, it's a big question. Clarification, I was actually born in Saudi Arabia in the refugee camp in Rafah. So I was not born in Iraq. Me and my brother Saif were the only ones born in the refugee camp. The rest of my family were born were from Nasiriyah, were born in Nasiriyah. Growing up as an Iraqi American in the age of mass media and social media is a very, very interesting question, because post 9/11, or not 9/11, post storm, it was a Desert Storm, there was a big shift of the perception of Iraqis, and not just Iraqis, but other Arabs in the media. They all kind of just clumped Arabs as this group, whether or not you're from Saudi Arabia or Kuwait, Iraq, Syria, wherever, you're just this Arab entity, and it erases every individual culture in the Middle East, especially Iraq, because to be, like I've said before, to be Iraqi is more than just being Arab, because you have this rich, huge history in Iraq that you don't have anywhere else in the Middle East. I'll let Jamal translate that real quick.
Okay, thank you Jafar. طبعا جعفر بالبدايه لانه كان على اساس والد بالسعوديه، بس قصدي بالعراق، بس صحح هذا، قال اني لا ولدت بالسعوديه بس من اب وام والدين بالعراق، واخوي سيف كذلك. فبعد يقول لك الحرب اللي يسموها عاصفه الصحراء، راح ينظروا لك كعربي، بس ما ينظروا لك ككونك عراقي. العراقي يختلف عن باقي العرب، كون العراقي له تاريخ غير عن تاريخ بعض الدول العربية. فهنا يعني يركز على موضوع التمييز العنصري وينظروا لك كعربي. Go ahead, Jafar.
Yeah, and so yeah, to be Iraqi is more than just being Arab, so and growing up in the US and the wars going on back home, and kind of constantly seeing this negative interpretation of Iraq, I grew up with a negative internal, not hatred, but pleasure with where I was from, mostly because it was a constant battle of trying to disprove that we're not bad people. And as a kid, I was like 10 years old when, in 2003, when the US invaded Iraq, not completely understanding where my family came from, and then having to tell people around me, that I'm Iraqi, and then, this 10-year-old kid having to talk about this war that I didn't understand was very difficult. So for a while, I kind of removed that part of my identity, and I didn't tell people I was Iraqi.
اوكي بس كوني كعراقي وليس عربي وانا تربيت في امريكا يعني ينظروا لك نظره سلبيه، وحاولت ابرهن لهم يعني احنا مو ناس سيئين بعد الحرب اللي صارت 2003. فتصور يعني طفل عمره 10 سنوات يحاول يتناقش وياهم على حرب ما يعرف يعني شنو تفاصيلها، فبالاخير تخاف يعني بدا يغير من هذا حتى قام ما يقول لهم انا عراقي. Go ahead.
And so the constant negative media and growing up, I think affected a lot of Iraqi Americans. And I spoke to with like one of my uncles, you know, that he would tell people like, you know, I'm actually from Egypt, just because, you know, being Iraqi at the time was just such a negative stigma. And I think, well, obviously, yeah, the media never really helps with all that. And sorry, I lost my train of thought for a second.
I want to ask you a question, Jafar. Yeah. Have you been to Iraq? Have you ever visited Iraq?
Yeah, that was where I was leading to. The first time I went to Iraq was in 2008. The last time I went was in 2010. So the first time I actually like been to my home country I was 13. So like just about a teenager. Because yeah, everything I knew about Iraq was through my family or through the media. You know, I never experienced it. But within the last few years, I've seen a lot of positive resurgence of how Iraq is depicted. And I think if it wasn't for art and kind of doing my own, like jumping into this world of art and other Arabs and other Iraqis, I don't think I would have found as much like brought back that passion and that love for where I've come, like my country. And since I also work in media, my focus has shifted to cultural works. So projects like this and other like photographic projects and writing. I'm currently writing my second feature-length film. I'm researching for my second feature-length film, which is also a like Iraqi historical piece focused on the revolution of Iraq. So kind of learning all this history of where I'm from has deepened and made me appreciate how rich and how great Iraq is and was.
I just want to have one comment before you translate, Jamal. You mentioned something about your uncle. He used to say he's an Egyptian. And I just want to mention something that in 1993, I came to the States for interviewing for my residency, and I was traveling all over the country. And usually I will be a taxi or a driver, some kind of a transportation would meet me and at the airport and will pick up a bunch of people together, and they will drop us at our locations. And people would ask me, where are you from? So I kind of hesitate and tell them, and then finally I tell them I'm from Iraq. And then one day, after the driver dropped them all, and I was the last one, he turned around, and that was, of course, the time where Saddam was still in power. He turned around and told me, be careful, don't tell people where you're from. You never know how people are going to react. It came as a surprise to me at that time. I never expected that people will treat me badly or attack me or do something, but he told me, be careful. Never to be careful and don't tell people where you're from. And that's when I started. I was living in Jordan at that time, and that's when I started. If people ask me where I'm from, I would say I'm from Jordan. So it's very similar to what your uncle was doing. Okay, sorry for the interruption. Go ahead.
لا اوكي. طبعا جعفر يعني ذكر انه الصحافه سلبيه كانت اثرها على العراقيين الامريكان. يعني احد اعمامي كان ما يقول اني عراقي، يعني هاي ورا 2003 يقول اني مصري، وحتى ما تقدر تذكر يعني ان انت عراقي، وكله بسبب الصحافه. فسالته زينه شو وقت رايح للعراق، فهو تذكر انه زاير بال 2008 و2010. Did you say, Jafar, you visited Iraq in 2013 too?
No.
Oh,
I was 13 when I visited Iraq for the first time.
So you visited 2008 and 2010. Yeah, okay. يقول كل ما أعرف عن العراق ومن خلال أهلي والصحافة. بعدين بعد زياراتي إنه بديت يعني دخلت بعمق في تاريخ العراق يعني شفت اكو يعني بهوايه اشياء يقدر يكتبها، ويمكن هو راح يكتب يعني يسوي فيلم عن تاريخ العراق. اوكي جعفر.
Thank you. And shoot, I lost what I was going to say next.
You were talking about you're making a story of films or writing of films about Iraq and about the historical things in Iraq.
Yeah, so I'm working on that, and I think for me as an Iraqi American, I don't know if I have a duty to like showcase, the different, but I want to, just because I realize that there is a lot of stories to tell and a lot of artwork to make based on where I'm from, and just learning the history and even the ancient history. The first written words were in Iraq, and talking to people about how so much of our current culture and so much things that we have in this world can be traced back to Iraq. And I think there is a shift of consciousness with people towards not just Iraq, but the Middle East in general. And I think it's just this people realizing that there is a huge bias of people of color in the media. And I think that shift is going to unify so much more of this world dynamic. And I think that is because of social media. In a way, it both connects and disconnects so many people, but as well as with the internet and the media. That made sense at all.
يعني هو راح يعني يدخل على تاريخ العراق ويبدا يشوف يعني يعني بعض التقاليد بالتاريخ العراق، وليس بالتاريخ العراق بس، والشرق الاوسط. هو شلون هنا هو التفرقه العنصريه بالملونين هنا في امريكا بسبب الصحافه يعني، فيريد يعني يحاول يدخل من هالمدخل ويحاول يصفي الفكره عن العراقيين وعن الناس اللي مثلنا يعني.
Yeah, that's my answer. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jafar. I mean, I think your answer kind of touches on what this project seems to look like to me, like the entire scope of the organization. It seems to me like create community and keep it tight, but also like show people that, this stigma has no place to be for any reason. So I'm really glad that you touch on that. So there is one question from the audience. If I want to be mindful of like everybody's time, because at this point it's been an hour, but maybe Ahmed, do you want to like just briefly answer Kathy? She's asking, I know there were interviews as well as photographs. How did the audio stories related to the pictures, and did the photographers read the stories first? So maybe if you just want to talk about the process quickly, and then we can wrap it up and say goodbye.
يعني السؤال من كافي هي يعني القصص شلون استوحيت منها الصور، يعني على السريع حتى نخلص. احمد والديك.
احمد. نعم وياكم. ايه القصه اني قبل ما اريد اصور يعني عندي طريقه انه لازم اقعد ويا شخص يعني اسمع القصه مالته واشوفه، من خلالها اسوي يعني اخراج للقصه، يعني طريقه اخراج القصه حتى اقدر اسويها الى صوره فوتوغرافيه. هذه طريقه اخراج الصوره من القصه. هذه طبعا عمليه معقده، لكن الشخص اللي يدخل في يعني قلب القصه اللي احنا نسميها الحبكه الدراميه بالقصه، راح يقدر يوصل الفكره من قصه الشخص الى المتلقي. يعني هذه هذا وين لازم واحد يعرف انه وين الحبكه مال القصه. هي هذه لبه القصه خلينا نسميها، او الحبكه الدراميه لاي قصه، كانت قصه حزينه، قصه مفرحه، قصه اي قصه، شلون يقدر يوصلها. المصور هنا يكون لازم يعني عنده درايه ويعني كل شيء يسوي فوكس على هذا الموضوع حتى يقدر يوصل تعابير الشخص الى المتلقي.
Okay. For the things that he did with the one storyteller, he sit individually with each one of them and listened to the whole story of each one of them, and he tried to get from his story a pictures to go in the bottom of the heart of his story. So the people who sees the picture, they have to look in the picture in detail, the expression, the facial expression, if it's sad or if it's happy. So the photographer has to focus on these facial expression of the person who is going to tell his story. Thank you.
Thank you, Ahmed, for explaining more about the process.
Thank you.
Thank you. So maybe we can like wrap this up. And I just want to say that it was wonderful to like hear more about your process and your ideas, and have like a closer interaction with the storytellers. And so I hope that everybody who was in this call can get the chance to go and see the show in person. It's going to be open next week, right, Abir? And it's open until December 12th, from Tuesday to Sunday, I believe. And so, yeah, I just hope you have a good rest of your evening and get to see the show soon.
Oh, Abir, just one question. Is the you said the exhibition is going to be open next week?
Yeah, we will be open. We're opening starting tomorrow. We'll be open through December 12th. It will be closed on Thanksgiving, but other than that, we'll be pretty much open through December 12th.
Yeah, I just want to stop by sometimes to talk about the things, the stuff, and everything.
Yeah, wonderful. Yeah, we just reopened. We're officially reopening tomorrow. So.
Okay, great. If I have the chance, I will come back. I will come tomorrow.
Sounds great.
لحظة.
Okay, thank you. Thank you everybody for joining us.
لحظة.
Ahmed wants to say something.
طبعا أنا أشكر كل القائمين على هذا المعرض من خلال زوي وآبي ومجموعة ARP اللي كلتهم ساعدونا لنوصل إلى هذا المشروع المتميز في ولاية مينيسوتا.
He just want to thanks everybody who make this exhibition happen, which is, you know, Abby, Zoe, IRP group that make this happen. Thank you.
Thank you. On behalf of CarryOn Homes, there are like other 2 people with me. They're just, one is in China, so it's sleeping. The other one,
yeah, CarryOn Home. CarryOn Home.
CarryOn Home نايمين هسه.
It was fantastic for us to work with you in this different capacity and like learning from your experience. So thank you.
حياتنا لهم.
Okay. Say hi to everybody there who is sleeping when they wake up.
Yeah. شكرا جزيلا.
Okay. Thank you for everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you
Have a
all.
wonderful
Bye.
day, everybody.
Bye, Jafar. السلام عليكم. مع السلامة.
مع السلامة.
مع السلامة. مع السلامة جعفر. هلا باي.
يلا افلت ابوك.